Welcome to the NC DWI Guy Podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NC DWI Guy, Jake Minick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to another episode of the NC DWI Guy Podcast. Today, we're doing something fun. We're doing something important. We're doing something meaningful, which is that we are going to look back at 2020. We're going to do a year in review. I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've done here at the office, both positive and negative during 2020. But I also would like to give a call to action to anybody that's listening to sit down and really look back at 2020 and go through the positives, go through the areas of improvement, and then build a plan for moving forward into 2021. Every Sunday after a NFL football game, the coaches and players come in on Monday morning, right? They go back home. They try to rest the body. They try to heal the body. Coaches take a brief period of respite, and then Monday morning they come back in. What did they do first? Do they start game planning for next Sunday's game? Do they hit the weight room immediately? No. First thing that they do is review the game film from the last game. They look back at the film of their own team's positives and negatives. They look at their own game film, and then they look at the game film of their upcoming opponent. Why do they do this? Because we learn from the things that we do well. We learn also, and maybe even more importantly, from our mistakes on the field. And watching those through a TV as opposed to being in the game and trying to learn from those experiences is so powerful. Having that removed view, the view that you see the game film from when you're watching it versus when you're live and in the moment and you're not able to see the bigger picture. Now reviewing the game film, you can see things that you could not see as the play was actually unfolding. And so that's where the players start. One of my favorite Panther players, Luke Kuechly, did an interview where he talked about the importance of watching game film, and he would study game film for hours and hours. He was a student of the game. He would spend, I want to say that he would spend about 15 to 20 hours per week just watching the game film. And the goal of spending that time watching the game film was so that hopefully what he's learning in the game film could impact or help him on 3 or 4 plays a game. He was watching the game film not so that every single down he would be improved, but just so that he could improve 3 or 4 plays a game, see 3 or 4 things develop, and know as he's calling the defensive play calls how to audible and how to adjust what the strategy was for 3 or 4 plays. That is the level of detail that you have to have in looking at your own business and in looking at your own life. There is a great Ignatian spiritual exercise, the nightly examination of conscience, or the nightly examine, where you review the game film, so to speak, of the day. You review the game film of the day, and you start that by calling to mind God's presence with you. And this is going to circle back to how to do this with your business kind of on an annual basis. But this is a nightly spiritual exercise. First thing to do is to call to mind God's presence with you. And I think that part of that calling to mind God's presence is being present with God. And so in comparing this to looking back at your business over the past week, the past month, or in this situation, the past year, the first thing to do is to remove yourself from your business and spend some time actually sitting down in quiet, reflecting on the past year. It's easy to try to just kind of say, oh yeah, well, on my drive to work today, I'm going to kind of think through the way that the year went and how we could improve things. When you're go, it's not going to sink in the way that you need it to. It's not going to be something that you can thoughtfully think through if you're just moving from one part of your workday to the next. So kind of in comparison to the nightly examine, you need to sit down and be present in your reflection of the past year. Second thing you do in the spiritual examine is you review the graces of the day. So you go slowly through the day. And a lot of the Ignatian brothers would actually do this multiple times a day. They would do this examine multiple times a day. But if you're just doing it once a day for a nightly examine, you go from basically morning to the point of the examination and go through each blessing of the day. Did you see the sun today? Did you take a breath today? Going through each conversation that you had, going through each part of the day and really reflecting on the points of gratitude and positivity that came from the day. Next, you acknowledge your sins and shortcomings. So you think on where you have failed in relationships, in conversation, in behavior. Where did you fail? And then finally, you make a resolve to call upon the Lord to deliver you from committing the same sins, having the same shortcomings the next day. And then you end with being filled with hope and joy that, in fact, you will improve the next day. That there is a commitment on God's end to bring you to a more perfect version of yourself. And so that is the nightly examination of conscience, a spiritual exercise, a great spiritual exercise, but we can apply the same layout, the same pattern to how we look back at the past year. Again, we can start by being present with ourselves enough to really spend the time thinking about what went well this past year and where we can improve. What went well and where we can improve. And so the first thing that you want to do is carve out time for that reflection. Carve out time to actually go through the past year and see where the positives were, where the negatives were. It's important to spend time thinking through these things. Secondly, review the blessings of 2020. Now, for many people, 2020 was a very difficult year. You may have lost family members or a friend to COVID or to some other illness or accident. You may have lost your business. You may have lost your job. You may have lost relationships because you're not able to maintain those. Coronavirus has really interrupted the normalcy of our lives. Some of that I think is negative. I think there's a lot of positives to be taken from that as well. When we sat down as a firm in 2019 to plan 2020, we had revenue goals. We had conferences that we were planning on attending as a firm. We had in-person mock trial days that we had scheduled out. We had a whole calendar of events that was going to happen during 2020. And come March, when the courts shut down, businesses shut down, our offices shut down, all of those things went out the window. All of that went to the wayside. That is something that we really had to kind of scratch the playbook and start over, start fresh. When March rolled around, we had to scrap the game plan and say, okay, now we've got to shift and pivot to dealing with this situation. And if you had told me in December of 2019, hey, here's what's going to happen. In 2020, people are going to stop driving, and our primary practice is DWI and traffic. People are going to stop driving for a month and a half. The courts are going to shut down. You won't be able to go into the office. Your employees and your coworkers, your team, they won't be able to get into the office. You're not going to be able to see each other in person. The society is going to have a tremendous amount of anxiety and fear about this virus and about how this is going to impact the economy. I would have said it's very likely that if we don't fold completely, we're at least going to have to make some difficult financial decisions, especially when it comes to team members. That might be something that we'd have to really take a hard, long look at, and maybe we're going to have to reduce. And having now lived through 2020, I can look back at this year with a tremendous amount of gratitude and positivity about some of the things that came out of this virus. Again, that it was not a negative, but a positive in terms of our business. I feel like for the next 10 years, the next decade, we will be looking back at 2020 as a point of amazing opportunity that we capitalized on, that helped give us the platform, the springboard into the next decade. And it comes at a pretty interesting time because we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary as an office in November of 2020. So we had 10 years to look back on and 10 years to look forward to. We're looking forward to the next decade. And so again, in terms of comparing this to the nightly examine, reviewing the graces of the day, here's just a few things that we as an office have to look back at with a sense of positivity about from this past year. In terms of our growth as an office, we improved our mock trial days despite not being able to do those in person. Lance, who is in our Charlotte office, absolutely crushed the overhaul that he did to our mock trial day, really making sure that people could be organized and prepared for mock trials, making sure that we could push our team to a new level when it came to trying to improve the way that we handle cases in the courtroom. We came up with a core value and brand promise system. We had core values before 2020, but they weren't explicit. We knew certain things were important to us as an organization, but we hadn't made those explicit, and so we couldn't really organize the team around that. So in 2020, we explicitly came up with a set of core values of who we are, what is our identity, and brand promises for how do we help clients, what is important to us in the attorney-client relationship, and what are we not willing to cut, what has to occur in each attorney-client relationship in order for us to consider it a successful representation. So coming up with those core values, and we have made those things known. For Christmas, everybody got a core values shirt. So I'm wearing mine right now. We have got mouse pads with the core values on it. The core values are on my desktop as I'm looking at my computer right now. We started using the app Bonusly as a team-to-team member recognition program, and that has allowed us to attach core values to the recognition and brand promise accomplishment to the recognition that occurs. So if you don't know about Bonusly, that is something that you should really think about. Very cheap, but a amazing way to encourage team members giving each other confirmation about how one another are living the core values and delivering the brand promises. So we've really pushed those core values, but it took the time that we had from mid-March to early June to reflect on that, to think about what is our core value system. We had a mission, we had a motto, but our mission, helping good people in their darkest hour, is important to both our core values and to our brand promises, but it wasn't specific enough. It wasn't something that we could kind of fully dive in on in terms of here are the decisions that we are making helping us to live out who we are, our identity as an organization, or are they detracting from that? We needed more specificity to that, and that core value system and those brand promises really helped with that. We also, again, for the first time, sat down and thought of our vision. What does our vision look like long term? Prior to 2020, we had looked out about a year, and only for about 2 to 3 years had we really come up with like a year-long, here's what we want to accomplish in the next year. Again, we sat down at the end of 2019 and came up with the game plan for 2020, but there was no foresight into 2021, 2025, 2030 was nowhere on the map for us as a organization. And so this gave us the opportunity for the first time ever to come up with a big, hairy, audacious goal. And we've came up with several that are 10-year goals, very aggressive 10-year goals as a firm. We have a set of 3 to 5 year goals so that we can move towards the big, hairy, audacious 10-year goals. Jim Collins is the one that came up with the big, hairy, audacious goal structure and framework. So that is, we're stealing from that, but trying to kind of map out how we're going to get to that 10-year goal platform. Again, this is the first time that we've looked that far ahead. And part of that was, again, looking back and saying, we didn't have enough foresight. We didn't have enough long-term vision going into this whole pandemic. Finally, we have 1-year goals that will help us to get to the 3 to 5 year goals. And then more recently, we have now kind of come up with a 90-day quarterly goal structure to get us to the 1-year goal. So why is that important? Because that long-term thinking allows you to be crystal clear on your vision for the future. That allows you to be crystal clear on your vision of the future. And again, thinking about this in terms of this 90 day at a time move towards the 1-year goal. Again, maybe we need to shorten that to a 30-day goal timeline, weekly timeline, daily timeline. That's why this nightly examination of conscience helps in terms of being very future focused. Do you think kind of focusing on the day is maybe not big picture enough? Well, that's the only way that you build towards your quarterly dream, your yearly dream, your 5-year and 10-year dream, is by focusing on, did I move closer to that goal, to that vision today, or did I not? And so again, that's why it's important to have this time, to carve away this time to reflect on things that have gone well, things that have gone poorly. In addition, as a team, we started a daily huddle almost immediately after this shutdown in March. We started a daily huddle, and that daily huddle continued through the end of May. So we had about 10 weeks of a daily huddle where we got together. We are spread out throughout North Carolina. We have team members that are currently in Asheville, in Gastonia, Greensboro, Durham, Raleigh, Wilmington. So we are all over the state. And again, before this pandemic, we didn't see each other very often because we weren't in the same office. Those of us that do work out of the same office in Asheville and in Gastonia, those people got to see each other each day. But as a team, we didn't get to see each other each day. So this shutdown actually allowed us for the first time ever to visually lay eyes on each other every single day. It brought us closer remarkably as a team. You would expect that if there is a shutdown and people aren't going into the office, that all of a sudden now you're going to start to fissure as a team. We did the opposite. We became closer because now we spent time together, present with one another during our virtual huddles on a daily basis. Those daily huddles translated into weekly huddles once court reopened in June. And we have kept those weekly huddles alive, and we have our weekly huddles scheduled out now through December of 2021. What we're going to talk about at those daily huddles, at least in kind of a general term, we have a real rhythm to the huddles. What started off as something impromptu and just a way to kind of stay together has now become part of a long-term plan to get closer to one another and to make sure that we stay committed to the long-term vision as a team, that we schedule time to talk about that. If you don't have a regular meeting with your team, which I did not prior to this, and it's something, again, that I'm very thankful for coming out of 2020, having a regular meeting with your team members where you talk about how to improve your business. Are you living out your core values? What is the long-term vision of the office? Having regular time for that is extremely important and something that you need to put a lot of focus into. We were able to have a marketing retreat in September where we were finally able to get together physically as a team, and it was a tremendous opportunity for us. We were able to train as a team. We had a mock trial day. We, as an entire team, so not just attorneys, but the entire team, was able to do a Colby training with Chris video that was just incredible in terms of allowing us to understand each other's strengths in terms of how we operate and how we think, and understanding one another's method of operation. It was really powerful for us to understand how different people solve the same problem, get to a similar outcome, but everybody's moving towards that in a different way. And so being able to reflect on that and see that was incredibly powerful for us. If you haven't looked into Colby assessments, even without the training, even that certainly helps, but even without the training, just understanding how your team members think and operate is incredibly helpful in terms of getting everybody on the same page, eliminating frustrations, assigning tasks to those team members that are going to actually be suited for the specific training that you are looking to build, or the specific task or objective that you're looking to put onto somebody's plate. That led to, again, having a quarterly goal structure. So we now have had 3 quarters, Q2, Q3, Q4 of 2020, where we had quarterly goals as a team, both professional goals, so goals focused on the office and how we're helping clients and how we're growing ourselves in the business of law, but also, and more importantly, focusing on the personal goals of team members. So we had team members that wanted to learn how to cook, wanted to focus in on a certain home project, wanted to exercise, wanted to wake up at a certain time, wanted to spend time with their families, go on a date night with their spouse. Those became part of the quarterly goals. So we were growing each other and having an accountability structure, because those were things that we put forward to the other team members and put forward to a specific accountability group to which we were each assigned. And that has really allowed us to succeed, again, both on the professional front, but more importantly, on the personal front. And then we came up with a quarterly evaluation system that allowed us to focus in on how are we living up to the core values and the brand promises on a quarterly basis. And so there's 2 to 3 other team members that will fill out a quarterly evaluation for each other and provide that feedback on, are you improving in the core value structure? Are you improving in brand promise evaluation? Or not? Where are the weaknesses? So coming up with that regular evaluation structure, again, that needs to happen in order for us to hit our 10-year goals. We can't do that unless we are getting better. At the current pace, at the current operation that we have, at our current mindset, we will not reach our big, hairy, audacious goal, our 10-year goal. The only way that can happen is if we are growing ourselves. If we're growing ourselves, the firm can grow to the size that we want it to grow to. But without us elevating ourselves individually, we recognize we're not going to reach that 10-year goal down the road. We also focused in on hiring. I would say that my method of hiring prior to this was shooting from the hip, right? Hey, you got a nice resume. I like the conversation with you. Boom, you're hired. That's it. That was the level of thought that went into adding new team members. And that's insane, because the way to build a better practice is through your people. If you're not getting the right people on the bus, you're not going to be able to drive where you need to go. Got to have the right team members. And so hiring became something that we clearly recognized as this has to be done as well as it can be done. There has to be a system to this. So we came up with a revised hiring process. How were we trying to attract candidates, whether that was through social media or more recently through a kind of direct recruiting process of trying to get individuals to come to us as opposed to just putting a job posting out there, which is what we've done again in the past as well, going on the recruiting hunt, recognizing that the most qualified people for the jobs that we are looking for are probably working somewhere right now. They're probably working at an office, because if they're the best people for the job, they're probably not unemployed. So going into a recruiting mindset, figuring out how we can use our Colby assessments in terms of our hiring process, evaluating, is this person going to be the right fit for the job that they are coming into? If you've got somebody acting as an administrative assistant, you might want somebody that is a strategic planner under the Colby scoring system, and not somebody that is kind of all innovation and creativity. That's not kind of matched up well to the specific position, even if they're really nice, even if they smile all the time, even if they're well spoken. They're not going to be interested in the duties and tasks that they're going to be assigned, because it's contrary to how they operate. It's contrary to how they think. So using the Colby as part of that hiring process. Having a testing process for candidates that are coming in as an attorney. We never had a assignment that we would, or a sample. We did writing samples or looked at those in the past, but never something that was important. And so one of the things that's important to us is, can you get a Google review? Can you get somebody to try to leave you a review? So part of our hiring structure now is, once we have an interview with somebody, we tell them afterwards that they have to get 3 people, it doesn't matter if it's a family member or friend, to send me an email within 24 hours saying something nice about them. It can be one line, could be a book. I don't really care. Doesn't matter what the relationship is. The question is, can you get people on command to respond to that request to write something nice? Because that's an important part of our business and marketing process. So having that revised hiring scheme in place really is going to help us to get where we want to move. So we spent a lot of time thinking about that. We hired 2 new attorneys in 2020 and 2 new administrative team members. So we hired 4 people in a year that was a tough year on the economy. Courts were closed down. People weren't getting new charges. So feel very grateful for being able to grow during a down year. But being able to hire during the down year allowed us a lot more time to focus on training. So we came up with a new training system, an onboarding system for attorneys. We came up with an onboarding attorney checklist. We came up with a set of videos for new attorneys. So a training video setup on specific issues related to what we do marketing wise, what our brand promises are, our identity, and then transitioning into specific DUI topics. So having a training video on reasonable suspicion, on probable cause, on the different standardized field sobriety tests, on sentencing. We have about 30 training videos that we have for new attorneys at the office to make sure that we are as quickly as possible getting people up to speed on how to provide elite representation to clients. So we got to focus on our hiring process. Anytime I used to hire somebody, it was like, this is going to be a tremendous amount of time and energy on my end of things to get this person up to speed. They're going to have to follow me around. And there's still some of that, but we were able to systematize our onboarding process so that we can hire more rapidly in the future and provide new hires with the tools that they need to succeed, both in the office and in conversation with clients, but also in the courtroom. So we focused a lot on hiring. We focused a lot on growing in terms of helping the other people in the legal community. So I started this podcast shortly after COVID. That's been a huge blessing, a way to kind of help other attorneys that are in the same practice area get better in the courtroom, get better in the office. And we focused in on communicating who we are to the outside world. So during our marketing retreat, we were able to get a lot of photographs for our website in terms of the different trainings that we do, in terms of our website page now for new potential job applicants. So we have a careers page on the website, and we were able to shoot 3 videos as well during the time in Wilmington. One of those is a Wilmington brand video, so we can communicate to clients who we are and what we are about. We were able to shoot a video for other attorneys to explain the resources that we are trying to provide to help elevate the legal community. So our online resources in terms of our briefs, our case summaries, the links to statutes and North Carolina specific cases on or U.S. Supreme Court cases on subjects related to DWI. That's www.minicklaw.com/lawyers. If you go to that page, you're going to find a whole list of resources there to help through building your courtroom acumen. And also, again, advertising the podcast through that same video. And then our third video was focused on the culture of the office, who we are. And I'm telling you, the people that are a part of the team at Minick Law are so incredible. We are so blessed. This is maybe the biggest blessing of 2020 for me in the professional setting, is that we're definitely at the pinnacle of the team in terms of our entire history as a firm. The team has never been this qualified, this amazing in terms of the everybody rowing together mindset. Never had the level of teamwork that is going on at the office currently. And so we created a culture video to try to capture that, to show to the outside world who we are, specifically to potential hires, what it's like working at Minick Law. And I'll tell you, the first time that I watched that video, and this is a testament to the team at the office primarily, because everything in that video is 100% true. There's nothing that was forced. I didn't hold a gun to anybody's head in terms of what they said during that video, but the team obviously is living and breathing what comes out in that video, but also testament to Crisp in terms of how they edited and the shots that they took, a Crisp video group. But the first time I watched that video, I thought to myself, man, I would love to work at that place. That's how powerful that video was. And it wasn't like a joke of, I'd like to work. It's like, good gracious, what a place to work at. Like, I would love to work there. And it was absolutely true. And so again, it was kind of that same game film mentality that I had in that moment. Again, when you're playing on the field in real time with your teammates, you don't necessarily realize all the thing that your teammates are doing because you're so focused on your specific task. The other 10 guys on the field have their task that they're trying to do. If you're on defense, the linemen are trying to get to the quarterback or prevent the running back from breaking through to the secondary. Linebackers are trying to cover the tight end, get to the quarterback, get to the running back. Create difficulty for passing lanes for the quarterback. The defensive backs are obviously trying to take out the ability to pass. They're trying to make sure that nobody gets beyond the second line of defense. Everybody has their specific task. And so working at the office, I've kind of focused in a lot of times on my specific part of the puzzle, even when that is kind of acting in the role of CEO of the business. But when I watched that video, I got to watch the game film and see kind of how people feel about the office. And it was an incredible experience. If you look up on YouTube, Minick Law Culture video, you'll get a sense of that video that I am talking about. And it's just been an absolute pleasure this year looking at how the team has grown and who we are as an organization moving into 2021, 2025, 2030. Bright things are ahead for us simply based on the people that are here at the office. So those are some of the incredible blessings and positives of the year. Again, in terms of looking back and reflecting on 2020, in terms of doing a nightly examination of conscience and thinking through your sins and shortcomings, it's important when looking back at this past year to look at where we've fallen short, where we have failed. And I think one of the things that I had failed at, to just kind of kick it off on the last point, is not recognizing the value of the team to the office. It is the people that are the lifeblood of your business, and making sure that you are investing the adequate time, resources, education into your people, helping them grow, helping them to feel the sense of mission that exists at your business and what you're trying to accomplish. That was something I took for granted. And I'd say continue to take for granted, and hopefully will do less so as I try to move into 2021. But trying to build your people, helping to build your people, is an incredibly important part of growing your business. So a couple of things that did not go well this year. We did not focus enough on referral marketing, referral networking. That has been a big part of who we are in the past this year. And we can make excuses and say, well, COVID didn't allow us to go out to lunch with people. COVID didn't allow us to have a coffee with somebody. That is BS. At the end of the day, that is an excuse, and it's not a good excuse. And me personally, I did not get enough time with some of the great people in our community, other attorneys, alcohol assessment agencies, interlock representatives. I didn't do enough of that this year. And we collectively as a team did not focus enough on our great referrals this year. We definitely have in a couple of locations, and I would say in Asheville in particular, where I practice, taken off our foot on the Google review front. And that is something that we can't do. We can't slow down on anything. And we took a step back on how active we were about getting client reviews and how we were trying to make sure that we were providing wow experience in order to encourage clients to leave us a Google review. We were not focused this year enough on analytics. Over the past 3 months, we have a team member, Matthew Summers, who is helping us with our marketing, has been doing an amazing job. And he has started to help us to kind of get our analytics, our numbers straightened out so that we can focus on which markets are doing well, which attorneys are doing well in terms of conversion rate, how much money is coming into the office in terms of potential clients each month, how many of those are turning into actual clients, what are the revenue numbers for the month, how much are we putting out in terms of expenses in every office. And that is something that I am weak on and have been weak on since day one. That's not my strong suit, but that has to be something that we focus more heavily on going into 2021, because again, we will not reach our big, hairy, audacious 10-year goal without being zeroed in on and focused on the numbers and improving on that front. It is the baseline for how you are doing as an office. You got to keep score. You cannot improve without keeping score. And the analytics are the scorecard. It's the report card. You got to have a report card to improve. We had a veterans expunction campaign that was planned, and we created a pretty cool video on that front where each team member at the office said thank you to veterans, and had, I think, some good contacts in place to help us spread that message. But because of all the political campaigns going on Facebook, on social media at the kind of November, late October timeframe, the amount of time that it took to approve an ad on Facebook was about triple what it would have been normally. And so we didn't get our veterans expunction campaign ad posted on Facebook until I think it was after Thanksgiving. If it wasn't after Thanksgiving, it was right before, but Veterans Day was, the 11th. I mean, it was early on in November. And so missing that opportunity, again, was something that we got to take away and learn from. How far in advance do we need to have our ads approved? You don't even have to launch them, but how long before do you have to have them approved in order to be ready to go for a time sensitive campaign to be launched? So that was a good learning experience in terms of Facebook. And last thing I would say is that we really maximized the time that we had during the March 15th to May 30th, May 31st timeframe. We really maximized that time that we had out of the office and really reflected on, again, the important things about the firm, our identity, our mission, our vision, how we could improve. We spent a lot of time in education. We read a couple of books together as a team during that time and really focused on improving ourselves personally and professionally. And even though we've continued to do that since June, over the last 6 months of the year, I think we took too big a step back from where we were in the end of May. Too big a step back in terms of making sure that we have carved out enough time to really spend the time being forward thinking and reflecting on how we can improve. So making sure that we have more time for reflection and improvement and implementation of wow ideas for our clients going into 2021 has got to be a way forward. So again, by reflecting, by spending the time to, I'll recap today's episode by this: spend some time, spend several hours of your time sitting down in the quiet, away from the phone, away from the computer, probably away from your desk, maybe out of the office, so that you don't get a client walking in or somebody coming in and interrupting you. Spend several hours in the quiet, thinking about the things that went well in 2020 that you can then take to the next level in 2021, and the things that didn't go well in 2020 that you need to put a stop to. Whether this is on the personal front or on the professional front, things that were a distraction from you becoming a better law firm or a distraction from you becoming a better person. And once you've come up with that list of positives and negatives, where you can improve on the positives and where you can eliminate the negatives going into 2021, make a resolution, a commitment to doing that starting on January 1st. Knowing the why, knowing the reason why you want to move forward in a different way in 2021 is vitally important to being able to stay committed to your goals. So hopefully that will be a good way to end the year here in 2020. Again, been a year of tremendous blessing and opportunity for us as an office. I wish you all a very happy New Year's Eve. Hope that you party hard at home. I don't know if the ball will be dropping this year or not, but enjoy the New Year's Eve. And I wish you all a tremendous, blessed, and fruitful 2021. Look forward to speaking with you next time. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the podcast. If you did, please share the podcast with another freedom fighter in the criminal defense community, and be sure to leave us a rating on iTunes. See you next time.